Here is your Radio Theater Channel weekly podcast for download. The RTC still has the very best old-time radio on the live streaming. And if it's music you love, tune in to the RTC Music Channel, where this link and many others are on our website at oldtimeradiolisten.com. Now, here's Jim.
Hello and welcome to this, the RTC Weekly Download. I'm your host, Jim Dolan. Thank you for listening. First up this week, it's Alan Ladd on Box 13. Dan Holliday was a fiction writer looking for stories for his novels. He would put an ad in the newspaper. If you need help, send a message to Box 13. Now it's Daytime Nightmare. Let's listen.
Box 13, with the star of Paramount Pictures, Alan Ladd as Dan Holliday.
Box 13, care of the Star Times. I should like very much to see you and offer a proposition which could be of mutual profit to us. Of course, there is some danger involved. But then, your advertisement asks for adventure. So if you are interested, perhaps we could have lunch tomorrow afternoon. Say 1 o'clock.
Perhaps we could have lunch tomorrow afternoon. Say at 1 o'clock. The Golden Arrow. Ask for Mr. Waring's table. There's some danger involved, he said. Yes, that's what the man said. And, brother, that's exactly what he meant.
And now back to Box 13 and Dan Holliday's newest adventure, Daytime Nightmare.
Well, at least this letter invites you to lunch, Mr. Holliday.
Uh-huh. Lunch, and then what?
Danger, it says. That sounds exciting.
It always does. You know, Susie, someday I'm going to walk into one of these things and not walk out.
Then follow up one of these other letters. There's one that asks for a babysitter. The woman says her children are an adventure.
Oh, no, thanks. I'll take Mr. Waring's letter and his proposition.
Then you'd better hurry. It's almost 12:30 now.
Oh, don't push, Susie. Don't push.
What time will you be back?
Probably this evening. But don't wait for me. Just lock up the office and take off. So long, Susie. The Golden Arrow was one of those ultra dining and luncheon spots where you can get a swell dollar lunch for $5. I asked for Mr. Waring's table, and the waiter showed me to a nice secluded corner. A small orchestra was playing. A couple were dancing. And Mr. Waring was just sitting there. I took a good look at him before I sat down. He was big and handsome, maybe about 50, and the diamond he flashed on the little finger of his right hand was spelled with 1,500 capital dollars. He looked up, saw me standing there.
How do you do? You're Box 13?
Yes, that's right. You're Mr. Waring.
And you're right. Please, sit down. I've ordered lunch. I hope you approve.
Oh, thanks. I'm sure I will.
You're younger than I expected.
Oh, disappointed?
No, please. Tell me, is Box 13 the way you make your living?
Well, not quite.
Yeah, I read your advertisement several times. Adventure wanted, go any place, do anything, write Box 13.
Is that said with disapproval?
No, not at all, Mr.
Dan Holliday.
Oh, no, not disapproval, Dan, just regret. Regret that I hadn't the nerve to do such a thing when I was your age.
Well, sometimes the regrets are mine.
Huh? Oh, I see. You mean once in a while you get something that's hard to handle.
That's it.
But you've always come out on top.
Well, I've had a lot of luck.
Is there any of it left?
Do I need some?
If you do what I ask, you will.
All right. What's on your mind, Mr. Waring?
First, we'll have lunch, then we'll talk. Will that be all right with you?
If you say so, yes.
Good. Charles, you may bring our lunch now. Now let's enjoy ourselves. There's lots of time to get serious after lunch.
Well, Waring was a very good conversationalist. I learned he was an attorney for one of the biggest estates in the country. He kept leading the conversation around to that every time we got on something else. Then, when lunch was over...
Enjoy it, Dan?
Very much.
Cigar?
Oh, no, thank you.
No, if you'll come with me.
Come with you? But I thought we were going to talk.
No, I'd rather have more privacy. You'll understand why when I tell you what I have in mind.
Oh, it's that important, huh?
Would you say $10 million was important?
It commands attention, yes.
Then please come with me.
We left the Golden Arrow. The doorman saluted Waring and signaled a big limousine that sneaked up along the curb and purred to a stop.
Please, get in, Dan.
Pardon me. Where are we going?
Oh, for a ride through the park.
Wait a minute. I want to know what this is all about before I go in for it.
You're not very trusting, are you, Dan?
It's not that.
Something wrong, Dan?
Yeah.
Get in the car, Dan. Little air will make you feel better.
But
Go on, get in. All right, Bert. You know where to go.
I'd been drugged before, so I knew what it felt like. It felt exactly like this. I came crawling out of the long, dark tunnel with a buzzing in my ears, my mouth dry as cotton. I was lying down, and I reached out my arms. I was on a cot. A nice white cot in a nice white room. I sat on the edge of the bed, looked around. There was a window, but there were bars over it. I went to the door. Hey, open up. Open this door. Open this door, somebody. Come on, open the door.
Get away from the door. Get away from it.
Open it up, whoever you are.
Move back away from it, and I will. Go on.
I moved back and away. There was a pause, and then...
Well, Mr. Stokes, you've awakened at last.
Stokes? What are you talking about? Come on, get me out of this gag, or I'll break my way out.
Samuel, Hugo. Sir? Now, Mr. Stokes, you don't want Samuel and Hugo to take care of you, do you?
What is this?
Sit down, Mr. Stokes. Please. Sit down.
I won't sit down. Where's Waring?
He'll be here in a moment. You want to see Mr. Waring? I'm sure that can be arranged.
Well, that's better. Call off those mastiffs in white coats.
Wait outside, Samuel, Hugo. And close the door. Go ahead. I'll be all right. Stay where you are, Mr. Stokes.
Look, if this is a gag, let's run it off the boards and put a tag to it.
Gag? Why, Mr. Stokes, you sound almost rational.
Rational? What are you talking about?
Just that. I've no doubt that in a year, perhaps a little more, we can discharge you.
You mean this is no gag?
No, it's not a gag. You're Edward Stokes. Remember that. You're Edward Stokes.
Where's Waring?
He'll be here to see you with your wife.
My wife?
Of course. I wonder if you remember her.
I don't know what you're trying to get away with, but if I have to play rough, I can play it.
Samuel! Hugo! I think Mr. Stokes needs to be quieted. Take care of it, Samuel.
Get them away from me.
When you've decided to be more calm, Mr. Stokes, we can have a talk in my office. Until then, I shall take precautions against your homicidal tendencies.
Well, it was no gag. Samuel and Hugo were too big for games, and they played rough. Samuel left, and Hugo sat beside the bed to watch me. I knew now where I was. In a sanitarium. But why? Now, why was I called Edward Stokes? I had to find out, so I turned to Hugo.
What?
Oh, Hugo, these straps are hurting me.
No thanks, Mr. Stokes. I can't loosen them for you.
Look, get my clothes, take out my wallet, take the money that's in it, and just let me get to a telephone.
I'm sorry, Mr. Stokes. You know that's against the rules.
Who was the man who spoke to me before?
That's Mr. Cordell.
Mister? Not a doctor?
Well, yes and no. This here's a kind of a rest home.
Does everyone get as much rest as I do?
Hey, you're all right, Mr. Stokes. That's pretty funny.
Yeah, I'm dying. Where are my clothes?
No. We'll get them for you later.
Look, I'm not Edward Stokes. I'm Dan Holliday. Get it? My name's Dan Holliday. I'm a writer.
That's swell. I'll bring you a pencil and paper later.
Hugo, go to a phone. Call the number I'll give you and ask for Susie.
Has she got a sister for me?
Now listen, you big lummox. This is a frame-up. I'm not Edward Stokes. I don't know who he is. I never even heard of him. I'm Dan Holliday, a writer.
Yeah, okay. I believe you. Once I took care of a man who was Shakespeare. I believed him. I also took care of Michelangelo, Dante, Spinoza. Why, I
want to see Cordell.
What for?
I want to talk to him.
What about?
Does that make any difference?
Yeah, because if it's not important, he'll get mad at me.
All right. Tell him I remember now that I'm Edward Stokes. It all comes back to me. Now, will you go to him?
Yeah, okay, but please, Mr. Stokes, don't try what you did before. I hate to get rough.
All right, I promise.
It's a good boy. And keep on being a good boy, and you'll be allowed visitors this afternoon.
I'll be very happy to see them. Very happy.
All right, Mr. Stokes, I brought you to see Mr. Cordell like you asked. Now, promise you'll take it easy?
Oh, sure. Thanks, Hugo.
It's nothing. Here he is, Mr. Cordell.
Good. Close the door and wait outside, Hugo.
You sure you'll be all right, Mr. Cordell?
I think Mr. Stokes has learned his lesson.
Sure. Please be a good boy now.
Yeah, I will, Hugo.
So, you've become reconciled, Mr. Stokes.
I know I can talk myself blue in the face to Hugo or anyone else around here and not get anywhere. But I want you to tell me what this is all about.
I'll be glad to. You're Edward Stokes. You're here for arrest. You were formerly at the Millhaven Sanitarium, but your wife thought this would be a better place. Don't you remember?
Remember? Oh, of course I do. You've made it all so clear.
Good, good. Oh, by the way, you're looking so much better than when I saw you last, Mr. Stokes. Would you like to see how much better?
What do you mean?
There's a mirror on the door of that closet to your right. Open it and see how you've improved.
I looked in the mirror. I didn't see Dan Holliday. I saw a stranger. Cordell's voice came to me from 1,000,000 miles away.
There's some gray in your hair, of course, but that's to be expected. As a whole, it's still a nice, deep, rich black.
My hair's been dyed.
Has it? I'll bet you think it was once blonde. I imagine you think your name was once Dan Holliday. Take a good look at yourself, Mr. Stokes. Get acquainted with your new personality. You'll be with it for quite a while.
Cordell smiled at me. Then I knew for certain this was no joke. I was Edward Stokes. My hair dyed, clever touches of makeup here and there. Even Susie wouldn't have known me.
Do you know why you've become Edward Stokes?
Why, Mr. Cordell?
Because Mr. Edward Stokes is dead.
And now back to Daytime Nightmare, another Box 13 adventure with Alan Ladd as Dan Holliday.
Well, there was a twist. I was a dead man, yet I was alive and being kept alive. But for what? Later in my room, I thought of making a break for it. But there was always Samuel and Hugo. Then later, I was taken again to Cordell's office. This time, Hugo went in with me. Cordell wasn't alone. With him were Waring and a woman. The woman looked at me as I entered.
Edward, darling.
Would you mind just calling me Dan?
Please, Edward. You remember me?
Of course you remember your wife, don't you, Edward?
Oh, hello, Waring. I must buy you lunch sometime.
Lunch? Oh, of course, of course.
I told your wife and Mr. Waring that you were so much better, Mr. Stokes. But now you've disappointed me.
Oh, I'm so sorry, Mr. Cordell.
Hugo, please wait outside. I'll call you if I need you.
Sure, Mr. Cordell.
He does look like Edward.
Must you say it so loud, Philip?
Oh, sorry.
How long does this go on?
Not much longer. Of course, it all depends on you.
Yes, how?
We'll leave that until later. Clarice.
What?
You've got to sign those transfer papers.
They're all right?
Of course. Oh, Edward, it might be interesting for you to watch yourself being committed.
I'm warning all of you. I'm going to get out of here. And when I do,
And when you do, what?
Where's the real Edward Stokes?
How does he know about Edward?
Cordell, did you open your mouth?
What's the difference? He can babble his head off and no one will pay any attention.
Suppose something goes wrong.
How can it? It's all too perfect.
Of course it is. Sign the papers, Clarice. Get it over with. Good. Now let's go.
Nothing can go wrong.
Not unless you double-cross me.
You've got your money, and you're in as deeply as anyone. You better see that everything goes all right.
It will.
Fine. Now, goodbye, Edward, and good luck. Come along.
Well, Mr. Stokes, you're now officially in my care.
That should make everything just ducky.
Oh, it will.
If it's not asking too much, what happens now?
My dear Mr. Stokes, if you knew, you wouldn't like it.
What's to prevent me from reaching across this desk and knocking your head off, just for the fun of it?
This gun will prevent it.
You wouldn't dare use it.
No, not directly. But suppose you did try something. Suppose we struggled and the gun went off accidentally.
Suppose it did?
And killed you. Who would be your witness? Not you. You'd be dead. Not Hugo, because he saw you attack me this morning.
Cordell leaned back in his chair and grinned. Then he laid the gun on the desk. It was so close to me. So close. He knew what I was thinking because his grin widened. But I had to take the chance. I jumped. Stay right there, Cordell.
All right. Now that you've got the gun, what will you do?
Hand me that phone.
Certainly. Here you are.
Keep your hands on top of the desk.
With pleasure. Whom are you going to call?
The police.
All right. Go ahead. Hugo! Hugo! What's the matter? Mr. Stokes. Be careful, Hugo. He's raving.
Hugo, you've got to believe me. I'm not Edward Stokes. I'm Dan Holliday. Give me 2 minutes to put through a phone call.
No, Mr. Stokes. You don't want to do anything with that gun. Better give it to me like a good boy.
Hugo, please. Please stay back.
Careful, Hugo. He may shoot.
Stay back, Mr. Cordell. I can handle him.
Hugo, listen to me. Listen to me. Give me 2 minutes on that phone. Just 1 minute.
Mr. Stokes, give me that gun. Come on, give it to me.
Wait, Hugo. Wait, I don't want to shoot. I'll have to do it if you come any closer.
Better not.
Hugo, I'm in a spot. The real Edward Stokes is dead, Hugo. He's been killed by his wife and his attorney. Listen to me. Stand still and listen to me.
Easy. Easy, Mr. Stokes, easy.
The real Stokes has been killed. He was taken from the first sanitarium and killed. I was brought here, Hugo. Brought here to impersonate Stokes. Cordell wants me to shoot you, Hugo, so I can be killed legally.
Sure,
Stokes!
Sure.
Hugo!
I know all that, Mr. Stokes, but if you'll just...
Hugo.
I'm afraid you killed him, Stokes.
Cordell, you shot the poor devil.
Of course I did, Mr. Stokes.
You shot him with another gun you just took out of that drawer.
That's perfectly true, Mr. Stokes.
Ballistics can prove which gun killed Hugo.
That's true, too, Mr. Stokes. But who would think of ballistics in connection with a maniac?
Cordell stood there, smoking gun in his hand. Oh, it was a beautiful frame. In a second, the rest of the people in the place would crowd into that office. What chance would I have? None. I talked myself into a lather. Cordell put the gun back onto his desk.
Well, Mr. Stokes, what now?
I can prove I didn't shoot this gun.
Think you'll get the chance?
I'll be back. Get out of the way.
Be careful, all of you. Don't chase after him. He's got a gun. He killed Hugo. Stay back. Let him go. Send out a general alarm.
I ran out into the night, out into the rest of my nightmare. I cleared the grounds of the rest home and took to the woods. There was only one thing in my favor, the darkness. I stayed in the woods, but I had to get to a phone. I don't know how long I walked. Maybe an hour, maybe 2. Then I saw a house. There were lights in it. I hesitated, but I had to get to that phone.
That you, Wally?
Yeah, it's me.
Just a minute.
Don't scream, please. Get back.
Please don't.
Look, I'm not going to hurt you. I want to get to a phone. Have you got one?
No, there's no phone here.
Where's the nearest one?
The filling station down the road.
Have you got any men's clothes here?
In the closet.
Would you mind getting them out?
Go away, please. I won't tell anybody you've been here, but don't hurt me, please.
You know who I am?
The radio, they said.
How long ago?
Oh, half an hour, maybe.
Get those clothes for me, please. Get them.
All right. They won't fit you. They're too small.
I don't care about that. Throw them on the table there. Just trousers and coat.
All right.
I pulled the trousers and coat on over the pajamas I was wearing. The woman watched me, and she watched the door. She was expecting someone. Wally, probably her husband. Then...
Please go now.
How far is that filling station?
About 2 miles.
There's no phone closer than that.
No.
All right, you stay in here. You're not going to get hurt. Just stay in here until you're sure I'm far enough away. You get that?
Yes, I won't move.
Good. I'll return the clothes later. She screamed. I could hear her screams fading into the night as I ran. I had 2 miles to go, 2 miles through the brush and woods. I couldn't risk getting to the road. Then I heard something. I ran until my legs were torn by the brush. I ran until my breath choked in my throat. Then I saw the station, but I couldn't get to it. I crept closer and lay down in a mud-filled ditch. I knew then what a fox must feel like with the hounds tearing at his heels. I listened. I heard Cordell's voice.
To begin with, he's dark-haired, wearing pajamas. But he may have picked up some clothes somewhere.
I haven't seen anybody. Better be careful of him, Clade. He's got a gun. Already killed a man back at the home. Don't take no chances. Shoot to kill.
I will, Sheriff. Thanks for warning me.
Okay, Clade. Oh, got a gun?
Sure, always keep one in the station.
Good. Keep your radio turned on, too. We're running bulletins on the air. That way you can tell if he's headed this way.
Sure. See you later, Sheriff.
Remember, he's dangerous.
A homicidal maniac. Take no chances.
Okay, Mr. Cordell, thanks. So long.
So long, Clay.
I watched the attendant, Clate, go back into the filling station. I watched him take a gun from a drawer and shove it into his pocket. I crept across the road. My stomach hurt from pressing it close against the concrete. Clate came out of the station, looked up and down the road. Then he turned off the lights and locked the door. Don't take another step. Don't look around. Don't reach for that gun in your pocket.
What are you going to do?
Nothing. You won't get hurt. I want to use the phone in the station.
It's out of order.
You're lying.
I'm not lying. Why don't you try it?
Where are the keys to the door?
In my pocket.
Keep your hands out of that pocket.
You want the keys, don't you?
Keep your back turned. I know that gun is in your coat pocket. Keys there, too?
No, in my trousers.
Reach in. Get them out. But be careful. Now, unlock the station door and go in ahead of me. Never mind the lights.
Look, why don't you give me your gun? You haven't got a chance, fella. The roads are crawling with prowl cars. They were here just a minute ago.
Yes, I know it. I saw them. Now reach in that coat pocket. Back to me. Reach in and take out that gun. All right. Hold it by 2 fingers and drop it on the floor. Go on. Now, stand over there while I use the phone.
It's out of order, I told you.
Stay where you are. Hello? Hello?
I told you.
Where's another phone?
The nearest one's about 5 miles down the road.
You're lying.
Like I was about this phone? Look, please, why don't you give up? Give me that gun, we'll go into town. Please. They'll shoot you down on sight if you leave here alone.
I've got to take that chance.
No, you don't. I want to give you a break, fella. I want to give you a break because...
Because?
Once I saw a dog shot. A dog they all said was mad. It wasn't mad. All it wanted was water. But they shot it without giving it a chance. Please, give me your gun.
Look, if I tell you a story, you won't believe it. I know you won't.
Maybe I will. Go ahead.
I'm not Edward Stokes. I'm not the man they're hunting for. He's dead. Killed by his wife and his attorney.
What?
I think because they want his estate. If I'm killed as Stokes, they'll identify me as him.
Please, give me the gun.
You don't believe me, do you?
I believe only that if you leave here and get out on that road, you'll be shot down.
You're hurt. Never mind. Get me to a phone.
I can't.
All right, here. Take the gun. Take it.
That's the way, fella.
Now you've got the gun. I want you to do one thing. Get me to a phone. Let me call the police. Let me identify myself, will you?
got a car.
Clayton got me to a phone. I called Lieutenant Kling and told him the story. And less than an hour later, the sheriff, his men, Clayton and I walked into Cordell's office.
Ah, you've got him. Good work, Sheriff.
Yeah, we got him.
I'm surprised you took him alive.
Yeah, so are we. Mind stepping over here a minute, Mr. Cordell?
What for?
Get over.
What is this?
You'll find the gun that killed Hugo in that drawer, Sheriff.
What? What, this man's mad, Sheriff.
I heard different from the city.
Look out!
Hey, take it easy, Cordell.
Get that gun, Sheriff. That's the gun that killed Hugo, not the one I gave Clayt. You were right, Mr. Cordell. No one would have thought of ballistics to see which gun had killed Hugo. Now I think I need a bath and a nice long rest.
Stokes were arrested on suspicion of murder. Police are searching for the body of Edward Stokes. Gee, Mr. Holliday.
Well, it wasn't nice, Susie. But let's forget it.
Sure, I know what you mean. Oh, say, I have to remind you.
Huh? Of what?
You've got a luncheon appointment today at...
Luncheon? Oh, no, Susie.
Next week, same time, through the courtesy of Paramount Pictures, Alan Ladd stars as Dan Holliday in Box 13. Box 13 is directed by Richard Sandville, with this week's original story by Russell Hughes. Original music is composed and conducted by Rudy Schrager. Part of Susie is played by Sylvia Picker, and production is supervised by Vern Karstensen. Box 13 is a Mayfair production from Hollywood. Watch for Alan Ladd in his latest Paramount picture.
And now this.
Now we come to a special department of command performance which we call Things You Never Expected to Hear Over the Radio, or Mailmen, Keep Those Screwballs Quiet. In the past, you've heard Carol Landis heave a sigh, Lana Turner cook a steak, Betty Davis sew up a doily, and Alan Hale bottoms up a glass of beer. But this week's mail brings us our newest and screwiest request. Harry, will you read this letter out loud?
Yes, glad to, Barbara. It goes like this. Dear Command Performance, we are 6 very dirty, dusty, mud-caked, and grimy soldiers stationed somewhere where it shouldn't happen to a dog. On a clear day here, you can make mud pies. Our plumbing facilities are very crude. When we turn on the faucet marked hot, soot comes out. When we turn on the faucet marked cold, it goes back in. It's been so long since we had a real American bath that all of us are, shall we say, slightly ripe. We'd love to hear the sound of a shower bath running full force again. It would bring back fond memories. Sincerely, Bathless Joe Fink, Dirty Dale Benton, Smelly Tom Brannigan, Sprayed Off Wigsy Wiggs, Cruddy Buddy Funk, and I can't stand it myself, Albert Sherry. All of us of APO 636.
Fellas, thanks for a swell letter. Here's hoping you come across a river or a brook real soon. And since your wish is our command, we're going to bring you not only a shower bath, but a real Hollywood star soaping himself up and singing just like you used to do. And here he is, complete with towel, wash rag, and soap, Errol Flynn.
Well, thank you, Barbara. Didn't tell me there were going to be any waves, yeah? Well, I don't suppose you'll believe this, but this will be the first time I've ever taken a shower in public.
Well, don't let that stop you, Errol. It's all good, clean fun.
Okay. Water, please. Soap.
Soap.
Washcloth.
Washcloth.
Suture.
Scalpel.
Well, here goes.
Bless them all, bless them all, bless the corporals, the sergeants, and all. Oh, there'll be no promotions this side of the ocean, so back up, boys, bless them all.
Thanks, Errol. I know we couldn't have made a better choice when we elected you to take a shower.
Now we'll start up the war between the sexes on this episode of People Are Funny, starring Art Linkletter.
Who's the better loser, a man or a woman?
It all depends on what they lose on
People Are Funny.
Yes, transcribed from Hollywood, John Goodell's production of People Are Funny, brought to you by Forever Yours and Milky Way Candy Bars. Both quality bars made famous by Mars. And now here's radio's top master of ceremonies, Art Linkletter.
Hello there, everybody. Well, here it is, a brand new year, our first broadcast of the new year, and guess what? I've made a resolution to be kind, courteous, and considerate to every contestant on People Are Funny through the whole year. Well, Roy Rowan, who's first to prove that I can't keep a resolution?
Mr. Robert Jeffrey from Meriden, Connecticut. Meet Art Linkletter.
How do you do, Mr. Jeffrey?
How do you do, Mr.
Did he say Meriden, Connecticut?
That's right, Meriden.
Well, that's the magic word. You win a big box of dark chocolate goodness, 24 Forever Yours candy bars. What do you do back there?
I work for International Silver Company.
You're married, man, aren't you?
Yes, I am.
Mm-hmm. You know, we give away some nice prizes on this show.
Yes, I know you do.
How would you like to win? A 1954 Hudson Jet with Hudson's instant action super induction engine.
Yeah, I would.
Uh-huh. Well, Mr. Jeffrey, I'm happy to be able to tell you that you are the only person who can't win it. Because this one's an outside stunt for our listeners only. Look at that. Only 1 minute of the broadcast, and I've already broken my resolution to be kind to contestants. Well, anyway, it's better to give than receive. Don't you think so?
Yes, I do.
I hope you believe that. Because, Mr. Jeffrey, your stunt tonight is to make somebody happy by giving them a gift. Now, this is what's going to happen. You're going to leave CBS and be driven out into Hollywood to a residential neighborhood. You're going to pick out any house. That's up to you. You just say, that one right there. We stop the car and you get out and you walk up. Be sure you notice the number of the street and everything, because when somebody answers the door, you tell them that you live at the same number, 2 blocks over, and that you got a Christmas present, you unwrapped it, and then you saw by the card inside that it was not for you and that you were bringing it over to them. You got that?
Yes, I've got that.
All right, now, then you come over and you hand the person this beautiful antique lamp like this. Here, take it. You dropped it.
You dropped it.
Yeah, I dropped it, didn't I?
Yes, you did.
This is what we want you to do, see? I have some more lamps, like this one. Now, you're going to have them in the back of the car. And you're going to take one of the lamps at a time, and you're going to go up to these doors, see? And you're going to say what I told you, that you got the present. And as they reach out for the lamp, you drop it, just like I did. And it smashes into bits right on the porch in front of them. In other words, there are 2 basic emotions inside the mind of this person at the door. They're happy and grateful to you for being honest enough to bring their present over, and then they're madder than heck because you just busted it in front of them.
I see.
Now, the question is, will they bust you? I think this is going to be an interesting experiment. We want you to take down, as long as you last, the various comments and the reactions of what they do. And then you come back and report on how the people reacted when the late Christmas present arrived. Say goodbye to them, audience. Say, Roy Rowan, how about you and I playing a game here?
All right.
We got a couple of good words, Forever Yours, and we'll spell them out. And for each letter, think up a word that describes this candy bar from Mars.
Oh, I get the idea, Art. Like F stands for forever. It will be your favorite forever.
That's right, Roy. The next letter is O. O is for out of this world, because a Forever Yours candy bar is really out of this world.
R for rich, a coating of rich, dark milk chocolate.
E for everything, and everything in a Forever Yours is the finest that money can buy.
V for vanilla. Mars flavors the dark chocolate and fluffy white nougat inside with pure vanilla.
E is for enjoyment. You'll really enjoy the creamy golden caramel layer.
R for reliable, and Forever Yours is always a reliable, fresh candy treat.
Y-O-U-R-S for yours, because always make yours forever yours. Who's next, Roy?
Mr. and Mrs. George Cannon from Fairbanks, Alaska, Art, but they're waiting off stage.
Oh, yes, they're the newlyweds. And down through the last 13 years, some of our very finest guests on this program have been newlyweds. You know why? Newlyweds are a little more self-conscious, a little more easily embarrassed, a little more nervous than anybody else. Now, what we're going to find out tonight is how much Mrs. Cannon, the wife, one of our newlyweds, will sacrifice to keep her husband from doing a very embarrassing thing. Now, we'll give them a test. You'll find out what it is as it goes along. And at a certain point, if she will save him from embarrassment at considerable sacrifice to her own self, we're going to give her a surprise gift that she doesn't know anything about. A beautiful Tappan gas range for their new home. All right, boys, bring them out and watch what happens. Because, remember, this is just a test. They don't know what's going on as yet. And our next couple is coming here now, Mr. and Mrs. Cannon. Oh, hello. How do you do, George? Where are you from, George?
Fairbanks, Alaska.
Oh, the ice is broken up early this winter. What do you do up there?
I have the photo finishing concession at Ladd Air Force Base and photography.
Uh-huh. And Mrs. Cannon?
I work for the Ladd Air Force Base with Controller's Office.
How long you been married?
17 days, 23 hours, and 15 minutes.
I'd say that you're in your late 30s?
A little later than that, Art.
Uh-huh. What kept you? Why did you wait so long to get married, George?
Had to find a good girl.
How'd you find her? What was she doing when you found her?
I called a friend of mine to ask her if she would like to go with me to Officers Club at Candlelight and Wine, and she said that she was busy, but there was a nice gal that came in that she had known in Tokyo. She thought that she would like to go.
Ah, and you made a blind date with him?
It's a good one, too.
Yes. Well, now, you're going to go back to Alaska?
A week from tomorrow.
Yes. I feel sentimental when I talk to newlyweds. I'd like to do something nice for you, Mrs. Cannon.
Thank you.
How would you like a few nice additions to your wardrobe, for instance?
I'd love that.
All right. I'm going to make it easy for you. You're just going to answer a few simple questions and a little quiz, and for every correct answer you give me, I'll add something nice to your wardrobe. How does that sound?
Well, thank you. That's wonderful.
Uh-huh. Mr. Cannon, does this sound like a good deal to you?
Sounds fine.
Well, I'm glad you agree, because the other part of the game goes this way. Every time we add to her wardrobe, we subtract from yours.
Oh,
How does that sound?
Not so good.
You may think you're back in Alaska here in a couple of minutes. Now, you remember that, Mrs. Cannon? Well, I'll show you how it works out. For instance, what's your address up there?
821 Northwood Building, Fairbanks, Alaska.
That is absolutely right. And you have just won for yourself a pair of lovely ladies' shoes from Forever Yours.
Well, thank you.
Isn't that nice? Oh, by the way, Mr. Cannon, the other half of the game, would you take your shoes off, please? Oh, get a load of those socks. All right, now that's the first part of the game. Now, Mrs. Cannon, here's your next question. Do you know who was the second Assistant Secretary of the Navy?
I don't know.
That is correct. I asked you, do you know? You do not know. That is right. For that, you get a lovely cashmere sweater. Well, Mr. Cannon, you don't have a cashmere sweater on, but you have a coat on. We're paralleling here, so we'll take his coat off. That's fine. She's a pretty smart wife, huh?
Yes, she is.
Yeah. Now, Mrs. Cannon, for a new blouse, listen carefully. If Railroad A is 4,157 miles long, and Railroad B is 2,237 miles long, which one is wider?
Well, they're the same width.
That is right. They are the same width, and you have just won a beautiful blouse. We'd like to have your shirt, please, if you don't mind. All right. Now we come to a very important question, Mrs. Cannon. Your next prize is a beautiful pair of slacks. How are you today, Mr. Cannon?
Fine, Art.
What is the capital city of Illinois?
Chicago.
You know something? Chicago is not the capital of Illinois. The capital of Illinois happened, does anybody know? Springfield. Now, Mrs. Cannon, were you did you know that? What was going on? I don't know whether you're deliberately trying to avoid winning these news slacks or whether you're not. Well, I tell you, you've only been married 17 days. Your husband is standing here with his pants on at the moment. But he will lose them here in front of 1,000 people if you answer this question correctly. Also, you'll get a $60 dress for yourself. Now think these two alternatives over. You got a $60 dress or a husband without pants. Who was the first president of the United States?
I don't know.
Now, folks, just a minute. We don't want to make this too hard. I'm going to give you a hint. He was connected with a hatchet and a cherry tree. You don't want to say, all right? Do you have any ideas?
Go ahead, honey. Say Washington.
You want her to get the dress. You don't care about your pants. You let hers answer the question. You don't want to say?
I don't know.
Look at the dress. Look at the dress. Very beautiful dress. Feel it. She's looking over at her husband. Has a nice feel to it. Silky. What do you think?
I don't remember.
It's to her. It's up to her. Mrs. Cannon, this was really a test to see whether or not you would, for a prize, let your husband be this embarrassed. Now, how about reversing the game now? Would you like to have some new clothes?
Yes,
I would, Art. No, we're going to save that for television. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm just kidding, and I'm not kidding about this, Mrs. Cannon, because you were a real nice, modest bride, and you did save your husband from embarrassment, even though he wanted you to have the dress, figuring he'd save himself $60. We're going to give you a surprise prize, a beautiful Tappan gas range for your home with the exclusive Tappan features. Isn't that nice?
Wonderful.
Good foods happen when you're cooking on a Tappan, whether you're in Alaska or in the Gulf of Mexico. And thanks for proving that people are funny.
And don't forget to always make yours forever yours.
Well, now who's next, Roy?
Mrs. Margie Neal from Los Angeles. Meet Art Linkletter.
Hello, Mrs. Neal.
Hello, Art.
A very pretty blonde girl, about 24.
25.
Uh-huh. Where are you from originally?
Tyler, Texas.
Mm-hmm. You're a married lady?
Yes.
Have any children?
I have 2.
We have for you, for the dark chocolate fans in your house, a big box of 24 delicious Forever Yours candy bars. And, what business is your husband in, Miss Neal?
Well, he sells for a living.
Mm-hmm. And, did you meet him that way?
No, I met him in a radio station.
What were you doing there?
Well, I was on a ladies' trio.
And what was he doing there?
He was the announcer.
You, like to talk. That's why you were picked out of the audience, I remember.
I love to.
All right. Now, could you talk about your husband for 1 minute and 30 seconds without making any embarrassing pauses while you thought of things to say?
Just give me a chance.
I'll not only give you a chance, but I'll pay you for it. I'm going to give you $2 a second worth of merchandise from Chicago's famous Spiegel store, and I'm going to give you 90 seconds so you could win $180 worth of anything you want from their big catalog. Now, that sounds easy.
Mm-hmm.
And it is easy. There's only one proviso we'll make. Well, really 2. First of all, anytime you pause to think of something to say, I'm going to start counting. 1, 2, 3. And if I can count 3, you've lost all the money up to that time, and you must start all over again.
Oh.
Now, you know a lot of nice things about your husband.
Mm-hmm.
All right, I know you'd want to mention those. But the second thing we're going to impose on you is this. Every time that you hear this bell, every time that bell rings, you must switch from whatever you're saying. If it's good, you must switch to bad things without a break. without a pause. And so on, back and forth every time the bell rings. Mrs. Neal, are you ready?
I think so.
For $2 a second, start telling us about your husband.
My husband has a gorgeous personality. I think he's the most wonderful man in the world. He's not very good with the children, though, because he spanks them, and I don't agree with him all the time. We never have too many arguments, but then when we do have one, he usually wins it. He always opens the door for me when we come into the house, and he arises when I come into the room. But he always picks the softest chair for himself and leaves me with a hard bottom chair, or else I'm standing. And when we go out for a ride, well, he always opens the car door for me very politely. But he usually catches my dress in the car door and it's ripped. And we go for a lovely ride in the hills. And he says, "Oh dear, wouldn't you like to live up here?" And I say, "Yes, that would be wonderful." But then he says, "My goodness, it costs $30,000 and I'm only a salesman." What a rotten personality that is. But he's awfully nice. Lots of times when we go shopping, he brings me boxes of candy, but he always waits till we have company for me to open
30
them.
seconds.
It's always lovely candy, and it's always tied with a beautiful ribbon. But the candy bars are usually broken, but then they can...
You must be buying some other kind of candy bar. That's all I got to say. Keep going.
We ran out of Mars bars yesterday. And where am I?
Better be bad. Starts with a good.
Yes. I had a lovely sewing machine, but he said that I didn't use it often enough, so he was going to put it up for auction.
Time's up, and she did a wonderful job. A wonderful job. I think, Mrs. Neal, that your husband better stay around the house and let you go out from door to door. You're a real good talker, and you've won $180, didn't she, John?
That's right, 90 seconds.
And Spiegel has been satisfying thousands of customers for more than 88 years, and you'll be among them from now on. And thanks from People Are Funny.
And don't forget, always make yours forever yours.
How would you like to get something for nothing? That's the opening line of the confidence men who each year in the United States fleece people out of hundreds of millions of dollars. Actually, that much money is taken from the public. Last week, probing this particular field, we had a special guest of honor on the show who wanted to prove that people will still fall for unbelievably simple rackets. He's been out this last week in the United States swindling housewives for People Are Funny. And wait till you hear what happened. To make it more interesting, we promised that if anybody recognized him as our Mr. X from People Are Funny and accused him to his face of being the swindler we sent out, that person would win for herself a brand new 1954 Hudson Jet. And the compact Hudson Jet is America's most beautiful car for its weight and price. Where is Mr. X? Here he is, ladies and gentlemen. Mr. X, we're calling you that, as you know, so that your real name will not get around. You're looking rather prosperous. Did you have a good week?
I had an excellent week, Mr. Linkletter. Very fine.
Now, you've had experience in working in all kinds of fields where you sell.
That's right.
And you know what the rackets are from the standpoint of what the confidence men use.
I made a study of it, yes.
What part of the country did you fly to try the racket during this last week?
I went to the great state of Missouri.
And you stayed in one town or went around?
No, I made about, seven little towns. I looked them all over, 7 of them.
And you flew out there and back?
That's right.
Find those TWA Constellations are mighty comfortable?
Very comfortable.
And the stewardess?
Lovely.
Thank you. What kind of a con game now we can reveal did you play on the housewives?
Well, sir, when I got into Missouri, like I said, I looked over these 7 towns and I decided to pick on one of them only, just one town. And I went out and had some cards printed. And I rented a truck, had a sign printed, put it on the truck, got myself a pair of coveralls, and I posed as a rug cleaner.
A rug cleaner?
A rug cleaner.
With a phony name and everything phony about you.
That's right.
All right. Now, what did you do?
Then I approached one of the homes, a nice-looking place, knocked on the door, and I told the lady that I was in the rug cleaning business. Now that the holidays were over, and I told her perhaps her rug was soiled, and we had a big special deal on. You see, they have a Sort of an alliance, these rug cleaners, where they charged $20 for the type of rug that she had. Now, this was the rule amongst the rug cleaning association in that particular area. That's what I told her. And I told her that if she'd help me
Is this the truth or not?
Oh, no, I made that up. Of course it's not the truth.
Gee, I just about gave him my rug here. And then what happened?
I told her that if she'd help me out by passing out some of my cards. I gave her the business cards, and I said, now look, let me use your name, or you give these to your friends, and instead of charging you $20, I'll charge you $5 to clean this lovely rug.
You put her into business for you, she thought.
That's right, she thought. That's right.
So then what happened?
So she agreed to that. And her brother-in-law, by the way, was visiting her, and we all helped move the furniture about. We rolled up the rug, and her brother-in-law and myself put it on my truck.
And you drove away with the rug?
No, I didn't drive away. Immediately I went across the street.
Yeah.
And I told that lady that this one sent me to clean her rug. And she gave it to me.
Now, in other words, what you did was appeal to the cupidity of these housewives in cutting the price and getting their rugs in your truck. How many rugs did you get away with during the week?
6.
What would those rugs be worth?
I had them estimated already. They're worth about $750.
And those people didn't have your address?
They don't have my address. They didn't know me from Adam. And by the way, I still have the rugs.
As a matter of fact, they didn't call any Better Business Bureau. They didn't check with anybody to find out whether the cards you had printed were real or not.
No, sir, Mr. Linkletter. And to prove that, I brought along the order book. You notice there's no name on the order book at all?
No address?
No address.
Nothing?
Nothing.
All you did was write down the rug and the price and take it away.
That's exactly right.
Well, now, no one then asked you, I presume, that you were Mr. X from People Are Funny.
No one.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, the rugs will be returned immediately because we have the list of the names and addresses of the people. And because we did cause these people a little inconvenience, I don't think we better tell their names, do you?
I don't think so. They'd be embarrassed, I'm sure.
We are going to send to each of these people, along with an explanation of how they helped us to help the nation see what a racket can do. We're going to send each of them their rug cleaned, and along with it, the amazing new powerful Lewitt vacuum cleaner that filters the air 3 times to remove dusty odors. From now on, they'll clean their own rugs. Nobody will get away with them. And I hope that they've learned a lesson, because the next con man they meet, they won't get a prize. They'll probably just lose their shirt. Now, Mr. X, you weren't discovered last week.
No, sir.
Now, that means you fly out on another TWA plane from Hollywood again this week, somewhere to the United States.
Right.
Now, I won't ask you what part of the country you're going to, but what are you going to try next?
I've got a dandy whipped up for next week.
Dandy, a little Jim Dandy. Where are you going to work?
I'm going to operate in hotel lobbies, cocktail lounges, bus stations. As a matter of fact, anywhere where the public congregates. And by the way, I'm going to employ a Confederate.
In other words, there'll be 2 of you.
That's right.
Mm-hmm. Ah, that's fine. And you'll do that one?
I certainly will, and not only that, I think I'll do that rug racket again. It was such a doggone good one, I liked it. I'll do it again.
Well, aren't you afraid that now that we've talked about it, they'll know about it?
No, sir. I'd like to prove that in spite of the fact that it's been done and they hear about it, they'll fall for it again.
All right. Now, folks, watch out. If you catch this man this week in some hotel lobby, barber shop, or a place where people gather, and you accuse him of being Mr. X from People Are Funny, he'll say yes, if it is our Mr. X. And he's a tall man, about 5 feet 11 and a half. Looks a little like Cary Grant, huh?
Could be.
Yes, He'll hand you the keys to a brand new 1954 Hudson Jet. And that makes Mr. X worth watching out for. So beware and be ready, and goodbye, Mr. X.
Thank you.
Happy hunting.
Goodbye.
I remember reading a book once about a fictitious place where everybody was supposed to look the same and act the same and talk the same. Boy, what a dull bunch of characters they were. You know, it would be a dull world if there weren't any variety. That's how the Mars people feels about their candy. They know that you and I like variety, and they give it to us. A great big selection of delicious candy bars. For example, when it comes to chocolate, the Mars people know that sometimes we crave dark chocolate, sometimes light chocolate. So they satisfy our tastes with Forever Yours and Milky Way candy bars. Now get this straight. Forever Yours is the dark chocolate favorite from Mars, a candy bar with a rich, thick, dark milk chocolate covering flavored with pure vanilla, and inside a luscious, fluffy white vanilla nougat, blended with a layer of creamy golden caramel. Now that's Forever Yours. Secondly, we have Milky Way, and that treats you to a king-size coating of pure light milk chocolate, wrapped all around a creamy chocolate center flavored with real malted milk. And topping that nougat, a layer of the famous, easy-to-eat Mars caramel. That's Milky Way. So remember, Forever Yours for deep, dark milk chocolate, Milky Way for pure, light milk chocolate. You try 'em both. You'll love 'em both. About 25 minutes ago, we sent a contestant out from People Are Funny here at CBS to a nearby residential neighborhood in Hollywood to try an interesting psychological stunt, to deliver china lamps that had supposedly been misaddressed and to break them just as he handed them to the householder. He's back now, so here comes our Mr. Jeffrey. Let's find out what happened. Mr. Jeffrey, a buffer from the Silver Company. This is your first door-to-door work, I suppose.
Yes, it is.
Now, what did you say when the householder came out? You noticed the address, of course.
Well, I told them that I lived in the next block with the same address as they did.
Yeah, and that the package
belonged to them.
I see. After you'd opened it.
After I had opened it, the package was theirs, and I was bringing it over to them.
So there it was, a great big beautiful china lamp, and you're standing there. So, who was the first one that answered the first door?
Well, the first one was a gentleman answered the door.
Uh-huh. And what did you do when you dropped the lamp?
Well, I stepped back, and then his wife ran out, and she was very angry, and she wanted to know who's going to clean it up.
Oh, fine. What did the man say?
Oh, man, he was good-natured about it. He just stand there laughing. It's done. He didn't say anything.
Did he seem at all pleased that you'd think of to bring them over?
Well, he was pleased when I brought it over, but it didn't anger him when it dropped.
He's just happy-go-lucky.
He's just happy.
He doesn't care.
He didn't care whether it was broken or not.
And then and she just wanted it cleaned up. Did she feel that she lost her present?
Well, I think that's why she was mad, because the lamp was all over the...
Yeah.
All over the...
So what did you say? You just kind of back away?
Well, I backed away. I apologized for breaking it. I told her I'd go get the lampshade. It was in the car.
Did you?
Well, I got away from there.
Oh, I see. You got back to the car and drove away. Now the second house you went to. How many houses did you go to?
Well, we went to 3.
All right, second house. What happened?
The second house was another man.
Yeah.
Well, he was pleased to get it, and he reached out to get it. As he reached out, I dropped it.
Yeah.
Well, gee, he didn't look too mad, but he said he'd take the base and the wiring, that he could use the wiring anyway.
Meantime, the whole bowl is down. Did his wife show up or not?
His wife showed up, too, and she was displeased about the whole...
In other words, the women were madder than the men.
Yeah, well, so far, that's the way it was. The women were madder than the men.
And the men seemed to take it with considerable aplomb.
That's the way they took it.
Irv Atkins, come on up here. Here, Irv's our outside man who observes everything from a safe distance, you see. So if anything happens to the contestant, he can come back and tell. Was there anything that he left out?
Well, not at the last house. At the earlier houses, there were a few different things. I think the second man was pretty angry, and the wife at the second house said, well, we're glad to get this lamp until it broke, and then she says, I don't think it belongs to us after all, and walked off.
Oh, she made the best of that. Well, I tell you what we're going to do. We're going to make those people all very happy. We're going to send, we got their addresses, and we're going to send each of them a bottle of glue to repair those lamps. I'm only kidding. Forever Yours candy bars will send each one of them a brand new lamp, and this time the delivery boy won't drop them. And for you, sir, we have, where do you live?
I live in Meriden, Connecticut.
We are going to send to Meriden, Connecticut, a beautiful 12 cubic foot Amana freezer, made by the century-old Amana colonies in Iowa, guaranteed to outperform all other freezers. It's yours from Forever Yours. Thank you, Mr. Jeffries, for trying our stunt. Well, during this next week, don't forget to watch for our con man. If you call him Mr. X from People Are Funny, you get a 1954 Hudson Jet, lovely as a jewel case. The Hudson Jet's a compact edition of the fabulous Hudson Hornet. Right now, this is Art Linkletter saying goodnight from Hollywood, reminding you that when you go for really good candy, get Milky Way and its first cousin, Forever Yours. Forever Yours candy bars, the dark chocolate favorites everywhere. Take them home in the handy family 6-pack or the 24-bar box. Good night, everybody.
People Are Funny is brought to you by Forever Yours Candy Bars, that dark chocolate-covered favorite. Remember, when your taste tells you light, pure milk chocolate over chocolate malted milk nougat, ask for Milky Way. But when dark chocolate is your wish, Forever Yours is your dish. Milky Way, Forever Yours. 2 quality candy bars made famous by Mars. This program was transcribed from Hollywood.
That's it for this week. We'll be back next week with more old-time radio. I hope you can join us then. Till then, this is Jim Dolan thanking you for listening. The RTC Weekly Download is produced by Chris Stone and Jim Dolan.